Hey folks, welcome to another edition of the J&J Sports Express for week 10 of the NFL season 2023. I'm your host Jeff Cadillac, and as usual, my co-host for the evening is JB Ellis. JB, how are you today?
Doing good. What about you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. This season is very good to me so far. The picks have been coming in very well, getting a few emails here and there from people asking me about certain games, and I'm hitting it, bro. The games, I'm hitting it. I'm seeing it very clearly. I'm seeing what teams are doing, and that's why I'm picking the winners right here. Check my
Well,
website, folks,
that's what
jeffcadillac.com.
that's what you get paid for because you're the
Yeah,
man. That's
yeah,
why you're here.
that's what I get
You
paid.
wouldn't you
But
wouldn't be here if you didn't know what you were doing.
thank you very much. Going forward, we're going to start off with Thursday night game. Not really a big watch game. Probably a lot of people probably don't have interest in this game because you're talking about two very bad teams. But it's Carolina at Chicago. Chicago is favored by 4. That's a misprint there by JB. That should be at -4, but that's okay. Um, how do you like this game? How do you see it there, JB?
So the Bears played really good against New Orleans over the weekend on Sunday, and you know the from what I hear today, Fields is not going to play on Thursday.
Fields is not playing. I knew that
Yeah,
probably yesterday, but
yeah.
Fields, I got to tell you something. Banjan, Chicago should have won that game, and I like Chicago plus 7.5 against New Orleans. Banjan had 4 turnovers. He had 3 interceptions and 1 lost fumble. Chicago would have scored 40 points in that game because New Orleans is a mediocre team at best. You look at the team on paper. New Orleans is stars. They have Alvin Kamara in the backfield. They got good wide receivers, but for some reason they just don't put it together when it comes to game day. And Chicago should
Derek
have won.
Carr. Derek Carr
Chicago,
is the reason for
I
that.
never was a big fan. He's got happy feet. Needs guys around him to do well for him to do well. That's just the kind of guy he is. Chicago, Banjan, I think he'll have a bigger game. I know I cut you off on this one because you were talking about Banjan and Chicago, but we will get to yours. Sorry about that. But I like, first of all, they're both coming off losses. Carolina, Bryce Young threw 2 pick-sixes against an Indianapolis Colts defense that is one of the worst in the NFL. Okay. And I liked Indy in that game. I had a feeling they were on a bounce back as well. But Carolina is just a bad team. Chicago has a great rush defense. They're number 4. So they're going to stop whatever Carolina is going to try to run. What's going to happen is Bryce Young is going to have to pass the ball. If you're not getting anywhere with the run game, you got to pass the ball. Bryce Young is going to be in the same situation. He's going to be in his last week, and he's going to make mistakes. I like Chicago in this game. Carolina, like I said, 5. They have also a good pass defense. Chicago has a good rush defense. So it's going to be kind of a trade-off. And Chicago does have a great run offense. So it is a trade-off, but you got Young last week is a little less inexperienced. Banjan, I think, is a little hungrier and willing to learn because this guy came from a Division II team, a 2 school. Okay, he's hungry. He knows Fields comes back. The guy might be in the CFL next year, so he's making the most of his opportunity here. I like Chicago -4 in this game. How do you like it there, JB?
So, I mean, first of all, it's a win-win for Chicago. If they beat the Panthers, they have the Panthers' #1 pick. So that's great. If they lose, they have their #1 pick. So they'll be in a better position. So either way, it's win-win for Chicago. But not only that, they're going to win the game. Badgett's at home, so he's going to be more comfortable. The Carolina defense is 28th against the rush. The Bears' strength is going to be rushing the ball, especially with Badgett in there. So that's another positive for the Bears. The Bears look good in their loss last week, and they have some new defensive guys in the. They got Montez Sweat
Montez
on
Sweat.
D.
Yep.
Yep. So that's going to help them as well. And I think it's just their week to win. Where Carolina, their rushing game is horrible. They're 24th in the league. So the Bears aren't going to have to worry too much about the rush from Carolina. And Bryce Young, he'll get better. It's just not right now. So I think the Bears win this game by about a touchdown. Although it's not the most exciting game, I think it'll be a good game to watch to see, a young quarterback that everyone's hyped about in Bryce Young, and another young quarterback that nobody really knew about a few weeks ago. And let's see who's better when they're playing head to head.
Well, we'll see. My feeling is honestly, I don't really like the spread. I'd feel more comfortable if it was -3 because you never know.
Yeah.
That half point, the 4, Bears late, they kick a field goal, they win by 3. But I think the Bears, if they really want to, get better, they have to win this game by 7. You can't barely beat a team that only has one win, is like 1-7 or 1-8 by 3 points. It shows you're very weak. And Chicago does have stars. They got to get the ball rolling. Tyson Bagent has to read the defenses better, and they should
Got to
be
protect the ball.
Right. And you know what? Don't throw the interceptions. I think
Yeah.
Chicago wins by 7. I got to agree with you on this.
All right, let's go to Germany.
Okay, that's the Indianapolis Colts. They're -1.5. The road favorite. New England is technically the home team here. Who do you like in this game, JB?
So Indianapolis has Taylor back at running back. Their offense has been pretty good so far this year. Their defense is another story, although their defense played huge last week. New England is a mess. Their offense is 29th. They can't pass the ball. They can't rush the ball. They're in the 20s in both of them. 31st in points per game. Then their defense isn't much better. They're ranked towards the bottom, the second half of everything in the league. I don't think that this is much of a game. I think Indianapolis is going to go in there and take care of the Patriots. Bill Belichick doesn't have either the roster that he wants, or that this is the roster he wanted, and they're just not very good. It's one or the other, because this team is not very good at all, and I don't see them winning. I think the Colts are going to take advantage and run the ball with Taylor, and once he starts running, the play action pass is going to be open. And the Colts have Michael Pittman, who's phenomenal, a couple of decent receivers. I think the Colts win this game pretty easily.
I have to disagree with you on this one, because I think the Patriots are desperate for a win. And when you have a team that's desperate, especially after losing last week, like the way they did, they were driving against Washington. They were down by 3 points. And what happened is that Mac Jones threw a perfect pass, and it went right through the hands of Juju Smith-Schuster, and Washington recovered the ball. Game over. I felt that watching that drive, that New England was actually going to go down the field and win the game like they did against Buffalo. Indy last week was just damn lucky. They scored 1 offensive touchdown against Carolina in that game. They had 2 pick sixes by the cornerback, who basically has been like a ghost the rest of the season. They got very lucky. Even though I liked Indy last week against Carolina, because Carolina is just, a lot of players away from being actually mediocre. Indy is just a bad team. Gardner Minshew is like a human turnover machine. He turns the ball over a lot in games. He's like a gunslinger. He will just take, he doesn't read the defenses. He tries to make something out of nothing. And the problem is that he gets caught up in traffic a lot. That's his problem. If you look at all the turnovers he has a lot of turnovers. He doesn't read defenses. He's in shootouts. They had a shootout with Cleveland. It was 39-38. I mean, these are the kind of games that Indy gets into, and their defense is terrible. I'm telling you, it was masqueraded by those 2 pick sixes last week at Carolina. Otherwise, the team, that was a dogfight. You take away those 2 touchdowns, it was a dogfight. I look at New England as being desperate. Mac Jones was having a good game last week against Washington, and they would have won the game. But this week, they're in desperate mode. And we did get I know J.C. Jackson's not going to be there because he was late for a meeting. He's got personal issues. J.C. Jackson's got problems to begin with. He was oversigned by the Chargers. For some reason, he wasn't playing. These guys, they get the money, and then all of a sudden, they just fall off the map. But I like New England in this game. I think New England wins the game by 7.
That's interesting. We disagree completely. Question for you before we move on. What's your thoughts on Mac Jones? Do you think he's capable of leading a team to a Super Bowl? Not necessarily winning it, but
I think if he gets the right coaching, he will develop, because it's obvious that Belichick and Nick Saban in Alabama, discussed Mac Jones in great length and said, this guy's going to be a winner. Otherwise, Belichick wouldn't have drafted him. So he does have certain tools. He has to refine them, and we'll see what happens. He also needs players around him. Belichick has to get better receivers. He has to get guys that go to the mat. You need like a Julian Edelman or a Wes Welker, or you need somebody like that you can rely on, that when you throw that ball up there, you don't have to worry that ball is going to be caught. Gronkowski, a guy that, look, Tom Brady had certain receivers that never dropped the ball. Okay. Mac Jones has guys right now, they're dropping balls all over the place. That is completely unacceptable. That's not the New England way. If I was Belichick, I say, listen, the next ball you drop, you're gone. It's ridiculous. I see a lot of drop balls in New England. Guys are not playing the way they used to. And Mac Jones needs to be refined, and I think he'll be fine. But they need players around him. They need playmakers. A lot of people say, okay, yeah, Tom Brady. But he had guys around him that became superstars, and the defense played lights out in important moments.
You make an interesting statement. So do you think Wes Welker would have been a superstar with any other quarterback?
He was catching balls in Miami before he came to the Patriots. If you look at his,
he wasn't the same player with Miami.
Listen, you know what? Guys feel a certain opportunity and they make the most out of it. Wes Welker did what he did, and that's it. What can I say? I'm just saying. Julian Edelman, maybe he wouldn't have been the way he was. He's not a Hall of Famer, don't get me wrong, but he caught the ball no matter what. I mean, you needed a ball that was caught on a 4th down or something like that, or he caught it. So, Patriots need to surround this guy with some playmakers.
Well, I definitely think there's a talent issue there. And I think there's a coaching issue. I'm not sold on Belichick being the best coach in the world. I would have to go to Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin, who's done a better job with less talent. But enough about that. Let's go to Jacksonville. This is probably the game of the week.
This is good. This is a great game. I'm excited to, a couple of weeks ago, Jags, we were talking Pittsburgh. You like Pittsburgh in that game. And I said the Jags, even the Jags in history have played Pittsburgh well. And I love that game so much. I just was so glad they came out on top. But the Jags right now, nobody's taking the Jags serious. Everybody's thinking 49ers, in this game, they're off a 3-game losing streak. They're due. The Jags are no pushover right now. They've got a very good offense. They got a very good running game with Etienne. They got Evan Engram. They got I can't think of Calvin Ridley as wide receiver. They got guys that catch the ball. They got playmakers, and they got a defense that plays well as good as anybody right now. And Jacksonville, they're trying to change that culture down there. They've been losers for so long. I mean, they're off a bye. They beat Pitt, like we said. The Jags have the number 3 rushing defense. A lot of people don't even realize that. Okay. You got the secondary for San Francisco. They can be beat. They're coming off a bye. Before that, they got smoked by Cincinnati. Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions. Come on. The 49ers secondary is suspect at times. It can be beat. They make tackles, they get turnovers, but they can be beat. And by the way, Deebo Samuel will probably not play in this game as well. He's shaky this week. First game back after an injury. Football guys are usually a little rusty going into the game. Yes, 49ers are desperate. They got to win. But I like the Jags. This is going to be a dogfight. This might go down to the wire. Whoever has the ball last is going to win. But I like the Jags with the points in this game.
So I'm going to agree with you for a couple of different reasons. One, the San Francisco defense is towards the bottom half of the league on third down. You got to hold the team when you get them to third down. They have the talent, the San Francisco defense. So, and they're a top 10 defense overall. But for whatever reason, the third down play calling on the defensive end hasn't been there. Meanwhile, the Jaguars are fifth. You mentioned that they're great against the run. You're not going to stop McCaffrey, but if you can contain him enough and make the game go through Purdy, you change the game. Purdy isn't, a superstar quarterback. He manages the game, So to me, I think Jacksonville is poised. If they do what they need to do and just contain McCaffrey, and their offense is good enough to score on San Francisco. That's not the problem. They'll score enough. Their defense has to win this game for them. It's going to be a great game. But I think Jacksonville has all the advantages. They're playing at home, which means San Francisco's got to travel across the country. It's a 1 o'clock start. West Coast teams playing at 1 o'clock is always a little bit more difficult because you're used to the late time, And then on top of that, San Francisco's struggling. This is almost a must win for them. If they don't win this, they're going to drop to 5-4, which is not where anyone ever expected to see them. And they're going to be how many games back behind the Eagles for home field advantage in the NFC playoffs?
How about behind Seattle in the West?
That too.
Yeah.
This is a huge game for San Francisco, so they're going to have all the pressure. Jacksonville just has to come out and play. They're in the AFC South. It's their division. There's nobody catching them. They're 6-2. Just keep doing what they're doing. They're going to be fine. So they don't have any pressure in this game. But I love them this game. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a battle. But Trevor Lawrence, the better quarterback in this matchup. The Jaguars' defense has been playing better. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars here.
And Trevor Lawrence has been playing a lot better. He's learning. He's playing like the player that they drafted from Clemson. And I'm really impressed by him. He doesn't get nervous. He can take a team and he can take the Jaguars and drive down the field with no seconds on the clock. And I like it. I don't think he's nervous. I think he really has it all together. He's got some good pieces around him. He takes what the defense gives him. And, I think it's going to be a really good game. So we both agree on that. Moving to the Sunday night game, which another monstrous matchup, you could say.
Oh.
Is the Jets -1.5 at the Raiders. I'll let you start on this one.
So if anyone hasn't watched the Jets defense, you're missing one of the best defenses probably that's been around in a while. Now, they're not killing teams. They're not 7-2, 6-2 like the Jaguars or, they don't have a record like the Eagles. But this defense is phenomenal. They stopped the Chargers cold on Monday night. Chargers have a lot of offensive talent. They stopped them cold. Look what they've done to Mahomes, to Hurts. The quarterbacks aren't doing anything. The Raiders' offense, really? Is anyone concerned about that? Then you have the reverse side of the ball, the Jets' offense, which is anemic if they don't get the ball to Breece Hall and to Wilson. They got to do a better job getting the ball to their running backs. I think that they're going to split the Raiders going up and down the field with them if the play calling is right. Robert Saleh has built a great defense. Got to get better play calling. Got to get the ball to his running backs. Got to run the ball down the Raiders' throat. And, I think that they're going to win this game. I can't see the Raiders scoring 14 points.
Well, I kind of disagree with you. I think on last Monday night, you liked the Jets and I like the Chargers. And the game, the Chargers, because the Jets basically get in their own way. Yeah, you got a great defense in the Jets. But when you're on the field the whole game, because your offense is so inept, you get tired. And it gets frustrating watching the Jets turn the ball over and not go anywhere and not score any points. I mean, they scored 2 field goals all Monday night. That's pathetic. And the Chargers capitalized on all the Jets' turnovers, basically. And even on a special teams punt, Chargers scored a touchdown. So you're talking about a team. Robert Saleh, he may be a great defensive coordinator. I'll give him that much. But as a head coach, he's terrible because you get the cards that you dealt with and you have to deal with them. You get the cards that you get. He's not dealing with them. He's basically just waiting for the magic potion of Aaron Rodgers to show up. Last year, you got to do what you got to do with what you have. He's showing everybody that I need superstars to win. There are guys that don't need superstars to win. They make them superstars. Okay, they turn them into super. That's good coaching. Going out there, the Jets, right? Yeah, they do have a great defense, no question about it. But eventually, it gets worn down in the game, as you saw. The defense gets worn down. Now, on the Raiders side, there's new life with Antonio Pierce. They show, okay, they beat the Giants. Whoop-de-doo. The Giants, I don't even think the Giants could beat Georgia right now because they're so bad. They have no offensive line. And the Jets, by the way, no offensive line whatsoever. Zach Wilson is basically running for his life. He was sacked 8 times last week against the Chargers, which is pathetic. You got the Raiders, Aiden O'Connell. He looks like he has something there. Jimmy G, forget it. He's like, he's in the check down mode. He doesn't look for the receivers. That's why Devontae Adams was getting frustrated because he's running around open and Jimmy G's just throwing down to the check down. Aiden O'Connell, you got the Raiders at home on Sunday night. You basically got 2 terrible teams, but you got, like I said, you got new life with Antonio Pierce. And Aiden O'Connell does have something. He does look pretty good. The defense for the Raiders sometimes really shows up a lot with Max Crosby. If they had somebody on the other end, I'm telling you, they would be a really good team. I like the Raiders at home getting 1.5 points. I think the Jets are just done terrible. What?
The Jets are 4-4 with Mac Jones playing quarterback with no offensive line.
Mac
and you're
Jones,
saying that they're terrible?
Zach
Wilson. They're both horrible, so it doesn't matter.
Right,
They're
they
interchangeable.
won with their defense, but that only lasts so long because you got to score points. Okay.
Right.
And I just think the Raiders, I just think the Jets have been lucky. They played some bad teams. They beat Buffalo and they beat, that game against the Eagles. I liked them in that game, but Zach Wilson is just terrible. Their offensive line is decimated right now. Raiders going to have a field day in this one. I like the Raiders in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with you with your assessment of the Jets. Their 4-4 is really good considering what they went through losing Rodgers in game 1. Not even 5 plays into the game. They were in the game against the Chiefs. They beat the only team to beat the Eagles. They're doing what they need to do at this point. And the Raiders, on the other hand, are celebrating that they beat the Giants like they won a game that mattered. It's the Giants. The Raiders haven't beaten anybody.
They won a game. They listen.
They were having victory cigars. Listen,
good, because you know what? Because Josh McDaniels, one of the worst coaches in the NFL, is gone, and Antonio Pierce. A lot of guys said that now the offense is kind of opened up. So we'll see what happens on Sunday night.
Yeah, we'll definitely see a defensive struggle because the Jets' offense is horrible. The Jets' defense is great. So that'll make it a defensive game for sure. But let's go to Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football. You got Denver plus 7.5 at Buffalo. Take it away, JB. Let's see what you got.
So although Buffalo has been struggling mightily, they've been playing horrible this year. No one would expect what they're doing. And Denver's on a couple of game winning streak. They beat the Chiefs, which was a division game. They always give the Chiefs problems, even though they lost 16 in a row before that. They beat the Packers, who were on their own losing streak before that. Who cares? They're not going to – this isn't going to be a game. I wouldn't go over 7 because I don't like giving up more than a touchdown. But, I mean, how are the Broncos even going to compete with the Bills in Buffalo? maybe if the game was in Denver, I'd say I'd give Denver a shot to take the points. There's no you couldn't pay me to take Denver this game on the road.
Well, I disagree again with you in this game. I like Denver plus the points. The Denver defense, believe it or not, is pretty good. Yes, they beat Kansas City and Mahomes had the flu, but it'll go down in the record book as a win. And Buffalo's overrated. They really can't stop anybody. Joe Burrow last week picked them apart. It was 24-10. They got a dummy touchdown at the end with a 2-point conversion, which really didn't matter. It was 24-18. Von Miller, who's on the Bills, he's done absolutely nothing. He's getting paid to do nothing. He has no sacks. I don't even know why he's still on the team. He really has contributed nothing. You got a secondary that's banged up as can be. They hide as can be. If Russell Wilson could just see further than a check down guy, Denver will score points against Buffalo. And even if it's cold, it's no big deal because Denver gets mighty cold too. So if anybody's thinking that there's a weather factor here, they're dead wrong because Denver gets cold, it gets snowy. That's not a problem for a Denver football team.
So you're saying that the 32nd best offense, who's 32nd in rushing and 26th in passing, is going to be able to go on the road and all of a sudden figure it out?
I think that the 7.5 is a little high. I think
that's what I said. I'd be happy with 7.
I think Buffalo is going to, if they do win this game, they win by 3 or 4, not 7.5. And I like Broncos to keep it close. I'm telling you right now, this is a game everybody's betting Buffalo, and that's why you probably go the other side. And for those reasons I just said, I like Denver.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't go over 7. And if you do like Buffalo, bet them early because everybody's going to bet them. So that line's only going to get higher as we get closer to the game.
Let me tell you something. I talked to somebody in Buffalo like a few weeks ago, and he basically explained to me that Buffalo is so overrated. They really have no running game except for Josh Allen. And if you have a spotter on the team, as Cincinnati usually does, like they did against Buffalo, Josh Allen can't take off. So he gets 30 yards, big deal. But he's not gonna put damage on you. And that's what teams need to do. If they contain him and he has to throw 40 times a game, he's another gunslinger. He makes mistakes. His accuracy is not there. Yeah, Diggs will get his passes and everything, but his catches. But ultimately, if Josh Allen has to throw 40 times a game, Buffalo's not going to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting game. I don't think that it's, an open and shut case. Buffalo's going to win. The cover is what I'm concerned about. Like I said, I'm not going over 7. I'd buy a point to drop it a 6.5. And if you really want to bet Buffalo, I wouldn't wait because you'll be buying a lot more if you want to get it under 7. So where can people find you?
Right now, jeffcadillac.com and on Twitter at jeffcadillac1 for my sometimes picks and always with my best bet of the week on Friday. That's where you can find me right now. Where can they find you, JB?
JB_ the program on X, Twitter, or whatever you want to call it. The thing that Elon Musk owns that most people go to. Be there. Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30 live, or WDJY 99.1 in Atlanta, Wednesday morning and Sunday mornings at Sunday at noon. Make sure you watch us every week. Remember, Jeff is 8-1 on Thursday nights. Pretty impressive. If you were betting his picks every Thursday, you'd be doing really well right now. So if I was you, I'd follow along. And we both, I think, agreed this week on Thursday night. So that should be a good thing. So. But until next week, we will see you. Enjoy. Got a couple of good games this week. Watch them and enjoy.
Take care, everybody.